whatever designs you're making, you're thinking of making a large if you look closely, you will find that out of this pattern, there are two lines goes right through, and that's where I want you to cut it up. You can print this pattern into different sizes, but now we are doing this tutorial is to show you the method, how to make a complex pattern look simple. Well, to make it simple, not look simple. Okay, now you have this pattern into 3 parts. And now, out of this part, you can tell that's one piece, that's another straight line, line that goes through. To make it, again, you need to cut this. So that middle part become 2 pieces. You will make this part and then add this part onto it. So you will even make this, how to make a big quilt into 9 parts and then into 3 portions, and then each portion turned into 2 or 3. See, whenever you have a straight through line, you cut it. And this also can be cut into 3 portions. And then, see, once that's cut, you can easily tell, like this one, 1, 2. That's also a through line that goes through. So now I will cut that into 2. That's one piece of fabric, that's another with blocks. Now I will show you the basics of how are quite easy if you started to divide them. Like this, I will cut through here, cut there. I will make this and that in different colors, squares, join them together before I join onto this one. And this one also is made separately. That's how the 3. You always, the T-junctions, they get together before you join onto the big one. When you have this completed, that completed, result from this side, from the wrong side. Okay, so I place the fabric just wider. See, that's the lines on the wrong side. My fabric is wider, so you just have it slightly bigger, big enough to be seams. And then the best way to do it, and really quick, is to have this ordinary fabric glues. You don't need to buy fancy ones, just that UHU acid-free glue will do the job. Wrong side, I place this fabric over so they don't fall off, and then you see I place the right side of the next fabric against the right side of the center fabric. I don't even cut it. You don't need it. What you can do now is turn it around, sew along that line, slightly over from here, or much over, doesn't matter, but slightly over there to slightly over to this end. So you'll be doing it from there, stitch to there, and stop. Okay, Now, can you see the stitch line? I stitch from here to there, slightly over where the stop lines. So anyway, you now can look on this side. I don't cut anything. That way I don't waste fabric. You see how tightly held these two pieces. That's all big, and I use a white thread. It doesn't matter when the stitch is that close. The result is beautiful, and later less distortion. And of course, another tip is I use special threads. One is I use this fine Wildlife number 100 thread, silk thread on thimblelady.com, that I use that for needle turn applique, and it's also the very best thread for machine sewing when you can make the stitch very close up, because that thread will not be overcrowded and looks perfect. On the other hand, when you I don't trim the fabric, no need, and I don't need to make the fabric seams too narrow to make sewing difficult, because this thing about piecing that's easier than quilting, other than applique, is you can always trim seams after you've already sewn the pieces. See, like this? Okay. Now I have stitched these two pieces, flip it, and now after this I can add the next piece like this, and then stitch this line. Once two pieces added and then flip to both ways after stitching, you will see the center in purple. So piecing based on a piece of paper, you will find it make it very easy for any straight line piecing. Okay, I finished sewing. Now you see when I flip open, that's the squares. It's got to be stitched beyond these two, the next two lines. But how much further? Just over. So when you stitch this line, it will cover that line, the thread tiles. And again, the same thing here is I don't trim seams until after sewing. And see, after you trim it, it's fine. Another little point about it is, you see, my stitching is slightly off the printed lines. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. This only means this pattern is slightly wider than I originally drawn. So when you do it, don't be okay. Now I finished. See, I sewed the sides on, and when you sew the sides on, did you notice I stitched right through, so even the seams are sewn. And that's it. And now the next step, when you have stitched very closely with the stitching short, you are done. And you can trim if you really want anything underneath tidy, particularly for, see, this part has own stitching quite a lot, and in fact with stitch sewn very closely, it allows you to trim the seams quite narrow. This will make it easier for quilting later. And this comes off. I really should have left the paper on it so I know exactly what the edge is. Okay, now see, the pieces has been pieced into 3 panels. And now you have a look. If I take this out, and now I stitch this and joined with this border piece. This border piece is joined onto that square after the square is made. And then join this piece onto this panel, and these two will be joined together, piece from the back, like this. And when they turned, they should be joined together. And then you trim to the right size. And then here, also piece these squares first, and then join onto this piece. I got this portion, and that I made these squares, that square, this square, all separately. Join this and that together from here, and then join this piece together from that piece, become a panel like that. And then this, again the same, this made squares are made separately and joined before I joined this row to the red square. And then I join this piece onto the red. Now I'm going to join this first. After I join this into a strip, that into a strip, that into a strip, I then will join these two, piece these 3 strips together into the quarter panel, into this. Not quarter, it's actually 1/9 of the entire quilt. Then following the same method, you'll be doing the number 2, number 3, then number 4, number 5, 6, until 9 is done. Then you join 1, 2, 3 into 1 row. That's 2nd row, 3rd row, and then you put the rows together, joined there. Then a quilt is finished. Now you can see this block, number 1 of the the upper left corner of the 9 blocks is made. They are made in first cut into 3 rows, and then each of these rows are cut into 3, because any pattern that reaches a T-junction, no-through road, like this, I call it, you need to cut it. And then you cut this line, make this eye candy squares, or I call it sweet dreams, and then you put a piece of border added onto it. So now, after that, you do all that, that's a lot, that's a portion, that's 3 parts. And then this is the side, and you can see I left the border a bit wider and this side a bit bigger than the actual pattern. It doesn't matter. All the outer borders can be trimmed afterwards. So from now on, large block into smaller blocks, then further into smaller blocks.